Hi, I'm Michael Bean, and it is Tuesday, July 7th. Welcome to the myfreeactingclass.com class for today. These happen every weekday, 3:30 to 4 o'clock. The Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it's myself and Kirsten Clarkson. These Monday, Tuesday, and the Friday lessons you can find posted if you go to confidenceoncamera.com or join the Confidence on Camera Facebook group on Facebook, and you can see all the videos there. So today, I promised to talk about how to feel stuff. And so what I want to talk about is um, the substitution and personalization, and I will talk about some of the tools that I typically use with students in class when I'm helping them connect emotionally with their scenes. So let's read through the scene first. So I chose a short scene from a 2015 movie called Stonewall. We'll read through the scene. I'll show you the project quickly because Tuesdays I like to talk about story and the kind of research that you do if you get an audition. It doesn't take a long time. I mean, I think I had maybe 10 minutes to quickly poach the Wi-Fi here and open up all these things that I'm going to show you today before I saw you. So it doesn't have to be extensive. You just have to find a way to connect with it. Anybody was here, I think, last week when I talked about empathy. One of the things that I said there that I'm just going to keep coming back to today is you do not have to empathize with the experience of the character. You basically don't have to have had their experience. You just need to empathize with the feelings behind the experience. And if you can do that, if you can empathize with the feelings that are behind their experience, that's when you can find something that is like honest and real for you and can tell the story effectively. Just realizing that my camera's a little bit low. Maybe I'll have better highlight. See? And I'm backlit because there's reflection in the window. There, see? A little reflection in my eyeballs. Now I look alive. Let's look at the scene. First, I'm going to need somebody to read the younger sister. So Sophia, great. And then I'm going to need somebody to read the older brother. So Joseph, normally I'd have Joseph read, but like he's wearing a face mask. Joseph, how do you feel about reading the older brother here?
Yes, okay.
Right. So we're going to get Sophia to read this out. So if I remember right, Joseph, the brother's name is Danny, and the name is Phoebe. So we're all going to look at it. Now, with something like this, I think it's particularly important to always make sure that you read everything on the page, including the crossed out parts.
Do I read the cross out?
Well, no, it's okay. I'll read getting a lot of extra sound. So I'm just going to mute you for now. Yeah, now can you still unmute yourself? No. Okay, so I'm gonna have to come back and unmute you later. We'll figure it out. We'll figure this out. We got it. The so share the screen. Stonewall. She says nothing, looks down. This is Phoebe, scene 1. There were multiple audition sides for Phoebe, so she means that she was a significant character at a significant arc. She's the younger sister. She says nothing, looks down. Danny, I'm half a semester away. How can you do this to me? I'm supposed to go to Columbia in the fall. Joyce, desperate. You can stay here. I don't know what to tell you. Danny turns, grabs the suitcase, and leaves the room. Mom tries to stop him. Daniel, why don't you say it was just this one time? We can go to a doctor. Maybe we can talk to Father Anderson. Danny, it's not one time. I see the italics on one time. Without saying another word, Danny passes his mom, who looks at him with pleading eyes. We hold on his mother's face as we hear Danny's footsteps walking down the stairs. The front door opens and shuts. Now, maybe before we read the rest of the scene, I'll give you at least the slug for the show, which is a young man's political awakening and coming of age during the days and weeks leading up to the Stonewall Riots. I went on to Wikipedia, looked at what are the Stonewall Riots, and we get the Stonewall Riots were a series of spontaneous, violent demonstrations by members of the gay community in response to a police raid that began in the early morning hours of June 28, 1969, at the Stonewall Inn in the Greenwich Village neighborhood of Manhattan, New York. So patrons of Stonewall, other village lesbian and gay bars, and neighborhood street people fought back when the police became violent. So the I think when the protests first started in the States, I was like, man, I must have scenes that are like politically relevant. And this is as close as I could find. Stonewall Riots were in 1969. All of the scenes about, or all the movies that are about riots, and protests and racial tension, in America and elsewhere are going to be coming out this time next year, because the writers are at home busily, now working on their like final drafts of them and pitching them to studios. So we can get ready for those. So let's, I'm going to unmute Joseph. Back to the script. Nope, wrong thing to click on. Script, here it is. Exterior road to the winter's home. Slows down, seeing his mother walking towards the suitcase. Running and fall into Danny's still clinging to him, not wanting to let him.
Yeah, the phobe. Look, I have to.
Oh, Sophia, you see your line here? So we're going to go back to, so Sophia, this is your line here.
Okay. Don't leave me. Danny, please.
Phobe, look, I have to.
The name's Phoebe. Danny can't bear to tell her. She finally lets go of him. Danny notices the tears in her eyes. So this is a young man who's been outed as gay in his small community. There's this thing here with his mom. We say it was one time, go to the doctor, or Father Anderson, and he's like, no, this is who I am. I'm leaving. This is his tearful goodbye with his sister. Phoebe.
You say all these mean things in school. I just run away.
Now listen, Phoebes, they will keep saying these things, but you are smarter than them, right? You will not believe them. I will go away, but I promise I will write to you.
Where do you want to go?
Maybe New York.
You have to go. The village. I read in the magazines about it. I'll come with you.
Don't be silly. One day you will come visit me, right?
The little girl nods under tears. Danny gets up and grabs his suitcase and starts to walk away.
Say hello when you run into Mrs. Jack Kenny. Promise me.
I will.
Phoebe looks after her brother as he walks down the road back towards town. She turns back to their house and sees Mom on the doorstep waiting for her. Exterior road to Lancaster. Danny is walking to town and notices his father's pickup truck approaching, but his father passes him without slowing down. Saddened, Danny watches him drive away, but then keeps walking. Perfect. And then we'll mute you two again. And so we get the texture of the story. If you are playing the character of Phoebe, one of the reasons that I picked it, not just because it was politically relevant, but also because it's one of these scenes where the character's written as being in tears. And sometimes you will get that at the very top of a scene. The character starts the scene in tears. If anybody was here long enough ago that we looked when we looked at the scene from If I Stay, where the character starts the scene in tears. That was a number of weeks ago. This one, it's written in there near the end. So top level, I want to say that those emotional notes are there for information. And the writer is putting it in usually so the producers can understand how the characters are feeling. Now, a number of years ago, I had a couple of coaching sessions with a woman who's a story editor, and I've said this in some of the lessons before, so I apologize for those of you for whom this is a repeat. And she said, oh yeah, I always do two different versions of the script. I do one for producers that has those notes in them. She cries, he shrugs, casually. Because if I don't put those in, the producers, remember the producers in charge of the money, directors in charge of the story, casting directors in charge of the auditions, talent agents in charge of marketing the actors in charge of themselves and their materials. But the producers, the money people, if the writer doesn't put in those notes, they literally don't understand what the characters are feeling. And they're the people who are buying the script in the first place. The writer has to put those in. But that doesn't mean that they're telling the actor, this is where you have to cry. This is where you have to shrug. it's information about the emotional arc of the script, and I think it's really important to take it in and to use it where it's relevant, and to try and understand it, and like I said, to empathize with the feelings that are behind it. But it's definitely not important to do that particular expression of feeling at exactly that moment. Now, occasionally you will have a moment in a scene where the other character says, "Why are you crying?" or "Don't cry." And if you ever run into that in a scene, maybe we'll cover this. I'll cover this sort of when I get into the tips and tricks section. But let's start with. So don't let me forget. I'm going to come back to it. Because you do not have to leak, even if the script gives you a trap. Even if the script says, I'm doing a scene with Deborah, and Deborah says, "Don't cry." I'm like, oh man, I'm the actor. I'm like, I have to leak like right there, or it's all going to be fake, and they're going to hate it. That's not what's going on. There are ways to tell that story. In the same way that if there's physicality, you can find a way to tell that story. So without going into too much of the history of it, there's something called method acting, which is really just this guy from New York named Lee Strasberg, who grabbed onto this idea that was like very exciting for people in New York in the 1940s, which was like, let's use real feelings in our acting, and he tried to trademark it. He was like, yeah, it's mine, and now I can make money off of this idea. And so psychological realism, or the idea that people should just use real feelings in their acting, it hit the US in a big way about the 1940s. And the reason that people think of method acting as realistic acting is because Lee Strasberg was a really great marketer. So method acting, one of the ways that, like, one of the tools that he lifted and built into his like method acting TM was called substitution. And so there's a lot of confusion about substitution, and I think that one of the things I want to start with is the difference between a substitution, or what I think of as a personalization, which is just empathizing with the feeling behind it. Substitution is, when have I had this exact experience? Right? Like, when have I been betrayed? When has somebody let me down? When have I been hurt in this way? And then I'm going to go back to that memory and fill myself up with that memory, and I'm going to bring that into the scene. And I'm not discounting it. It can be effective if somebody spends a whole bunch of time doing that work. Typically what happens, or what the real risk there, is that somebody goes so far into delving into the memory of their dog's death when they were 9, that then they're not really in the scene anymore. The scene is with Phoebe and Danny. And if you're reliving the painful experience of the death of your childhood pet, and totally in that, so you're not really telling this story anymore. That's the risk. The other thing is that tool does not work for everyone. It just doesn't work for everybody to revisit a painful part of your history and invite it into your life. So if you are playing Phoebe or if you're playing Danny, both of them have strong feelings here. So in your own words, throw into the chat window, like, what's Phoebe feeling? What's the dominant feeling in the scene? And if you're Danny, like, what's Danny's dominant feeling in the scene? Again, so I'm going with your words and not all of mine. Pain, right? Yeah, both of them are their pain, their sadness, is coming from different places, but the loss, the grief, betrayal, fear, right? Phoebe's scared for her brother, like he's going off into this unknown place, and she's scared that maybe she's not going to see him again. A little panicked, even. And so if you can identify these are all things that 100% you've experienced before, like what that feeling is in your body. And so I would say start with one of these strong feelings, and then go, okay, when have I felt that? And I've been doing this exercise a lot with both my Monday night adult class and with my teens class on the weekend. is going through lists. But let's say that we picked fear. Then I would say, okay, I'm going to set a timer for 5 minutes, or 10, and then I'm going to write down different times in my life where I felt intense fear, and then I'm going to follow those to what was the physical sensation in my body, right? So, okay, there was this time where there was a flood at the studio, and I was really freaked out. There's this time where like my son hurt himself, and I was okay, but do the short list, and then I'm going to look at each one, not see what did I hear, what was the sensation in my body, and somewhere in there, you may find something that care. Oh, thank you. So glad that the audio is down. It's a little creepy to like fill up the frame like this, but if you can hear me better, still can't hear at all. If you're doing anything that's like video or what about now? Can you hear me? Oh man. Okay. Well, let's try moving into the house and see if that helps the video any. Noise in my life. You can hear me now. Excellent. Okay. Phew. Yay. So much better. Thanks for telling me, humans. I don't want the lesson to be sidetracked by technology. And so if we're going with fear, then we would anchor. Then first, you might investigate your life, because we don't want to play non-specific. We don't want to play something that is not specific. And I think that this is an important adjustment. You say, okay, not I'm reliving this moment that was scary. You would say, okay, I feel that way about this thing that's happening right in front of me. And so if I'm working with a student, then I might go. I think yesterday you saw me have somebody jump up and down before they're seen. Getting your heart rate up. Can often be a good way to get some like fear or panic into your body. And then you can just ride that physical sensation, right? And so you literally just use physicality to help get you in. Once you're there in the scene, hopefully you are engaging with those imaginary circumstances in a way that is in line with the feeling. And it's really being in that story. It's what the acting teacher Stella Adler called the as if that drives you. But I would say that like you've got your body, you've got your memory, you've got your imagination. That these are all entry points into strong feeling. And I would say it's important as an actor to explore which one activates you the most, because you're going to need these things often on short notice, and often in an audition they're going to say, okay, great, yeah, we like that the scared, but she's actually more sad, and you're going to need to make an adjustment to it quite quickly. Now, something that I've said to Christina in the Q&A yesterday, and that then came up in our Q&A last week as well, is so we've talked about like getting into it physically, talked about like exploring your own experience and looking for what's called affective memory, by examining sensation, and going, okay, right, like fear feels like tight in my chest, and kind of like I'm underwater a little bit. And if I just remember that that's how, and for me personally, Michael Biehn is like, it's also this sort of like sick, heavy feeling here in my belly that kind of pushes downwards. Oh, right. Okay. So if I just remember that, and that's what I'm filling my moment before with, is like, right. Okay. And I'm coming from there, I'm coming to interact with the scene. There's your affective memory exercise. There's your being creative about understanding what's happening in the scene exercise. And then as we move into those imagination or the as if exercise, that's when I think the story questions that often that I usually hit on Tuesdays become relevant. Right? Style, the writer's story, my story, descriptive words. It's right down here where we get into the strong feeling or opinion. And that then drives what I have to make the other character do or feel in my objective phrase. Then in here, we can, right, the relationship is brother and sister. Brother, if you're playing Phoebe. Strong feeling or opinion. If you're looking for emotionally charged language that makes sense to you, what would you say the strong feeling or opinion is about Danny? Right, and so what we're trying to do is take the focus off of you. Oh, I'm scared. I want to tell a story about a girl who's scared, and onto the other person. What is over there that's driving the scared? It's that's where we might find something like "Don't leave me," or anybody. Good. Somebody said something. So Christina, what I'm suggesting is that it starts with feeling, of course, but then you want to follow that through to strong feeling or opinion, fear, nervous, great, and then what am I going to have to imagine about that other person? That drives the fear and nervous, because if you try and just put fear and nervous on, I'm scared for you. Yeah, I'm scared for you, right? So now you're trying to get him to take care of you. Right? I have to make the other character make him take care of me. Right? Then suddenly this makes sense. Fear of abandonment, right? The don't leave me, or I don't want to be all alone. Alone. Great. Yeah, that's a great option. Let me come with you, or let me come with you. Which is one of the lines in the script, So absolutely, we can use that to drive the objective phrases. How are you, like, oh yeah, how are you going to survive? How are you going to survive? Right? Emotionally charged language. I want to come. Right? So that so we move from the strong feeling or opinion of fear or nervousness, and then we start giving it an anchor out there on the other person. Please, can I help you? Great options. Can I help you? Yeah, and so I've talked about this before in these classes, that you try a couple of these out loud and you see which one activates you the most emotionally. Yeah, and then those are going to be your most effective options, having a couple of those. But I think that in order to make an effective choice here about this objective phrase, something that's going to help tell the story, you have to think about what is the strong feeling or opinion, and what do I have to make the other character feel? Olivia, I'd have to hear you say that one. Oh, you're not on your own. Interesting. You're not on your own. Now, that's not going to give us fear and nervous, but that's going to give us something totally different, isn't it? That's going to give us like caretaking or comforting, that you're worried he's scared and you're trying to make him feel better, right? Or I want him to feel okay. Right. When will you come back? Olivia, I would probably follow that into something that is more emotionally charged. Please don't leave. Please don't leave. Exactly. So now you're understanding it. So the objective phrase is a tool that I've talked about here before, that I think is that I use in class all the time and find very effective. And then if you want to go further with that, you're like, okay, cool, I found the phrase, when I say this, when I connect with that other person, then I can find it in relationship, right? So objective phrases, there's the options that I just wrote down. Then we can play with the then we can play with getting you into the right place physically. We can play with who are you talking to. This is another way to investigate your life for a personalization. Is can you think of somebody else who you have that feeling about or have ever? Larry Moss is a teacher who I've studied with a number of times and just really, really like. His work's very sophisticated. But he's the first person I ever saw do this exercise where he would have an actor say, "Bad dog." It was like an actor who was really having trouble being angry or contemptuous to their partner. And he would say, "Okay, so your dog's just peed on the carpet. Just say, bad dog, bad dog." Good. Now say the line to the other person like you said that. And so I would say, particularly if we're talking about Canadian actors, your characters will often have to be, like fear and panic are I think are easier for us to connect to. But contempt, anger, being emotionally or physically violent, towards the other characters in the scene. These things come up in scenes all the time because they're dramatic. It makes us stop what we're doing and watch. You might have to get really creative about where have you felt that before. I'm going to empathize with that feeling. Oh, and it's like, okay, maybe the only person who I'm that mean to is myself. Maybe I only talk and only under specific circumstances, or maybe there was, or maybe it's my dog chewed up my shoes, and it was only brief. It was only 10 minutes 2 years ago. But I remember what that feeling is like, and I can investigate it. What does it feel like in my body? What drives it? And then I can find something to bring that relationship in. So I know that we are at the end of 4 o'clock. It's a complex subject, but maybe I could just give you a couple of quick, concrete examples by using a line from the script. Right. So. Please don't leave, Danny. Don't leave, Danny. Please don't leave me. Okay, so we'll just use that line. So pick one of these phrases. And Olivia, would you help me out? You can just stay right where you are.
Okay.
So which one of these objectives do you want to deal with?
Can I see?
They're right here in the chat window.
Oh, chat window. Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
While you look at those, Olivia, Christina, do you want to help me out? Pick one of the objective phrases in the chat window. No, there's background noise where you are. I just need somebody who's ready to help immediately.
Okay,
Yeah?
I'm ready.
What is objective phrases? Which one do you want to play with?
Sorry. Oh gosh, this is hard.
Okay, Olivia, do you know which one you want to use?
Yeah. Don't leave me.
Don't. Good. So don't leave me. Well, that's the line. What is it that you're worried about there? Are you worried that he'll never come back?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Say I'm really worried about you. Try that.
I'm really worried without you.
Say I'm really worried about you.
I'm really worried about you.
Good. Now from that place, say don't leave me.
Don't leave me.
Okay, good. So it didn't quite work. So you're having to like push for the feeling. Try saying I don't want to be alone.
I don't want to be alone.
Really nice. Now say the line like you said that. So just say it exactly like you just said that.
I don't want to be alone.
But now say don't leave me, but say it like you said that.
Don't leave me.
Good. Now can everybody hear how much more honest that one is? I get it. It's subtle, but you're training your ear for when am I hearing a feeling that is deliberate, that somebody is trying to put into their voice on purpose? And when am I hearing something that is grounded in something that is actually honest for somebody's experience? It's tricky. Like, this is a sophisticated thing, that we are trying to do. If it was easy, everybody'd be doing it. Let's get one more person to do an example. Christina, do you have one of these objectives that you want to use?
Yeah. Can I do I don't want to be alone, or do Olivia already do that?
She just did that one.
Okay, I'm gonna do I want to come. I hate to share.
Good, yeah, good. So just say that. Say, I want to come.
I want to come.
Okay, and let's look for a little bit more feeling. Say it's going to be so exciting.
It's gonna be so exciting, like in a sad way.
No, this is what I'm saying. We're not getting hung up on the feeling right now. We're looking for, if it's I want to come that you're playing with, then it's a different feeling. You're going with a different, does that make sense? We're looking for a different take on the line. Like the say, what are you going to do?
What are you gonna do?
Let's say, say, I'm really scared for you.
I'm really scared for you.
Good. Now say the line like you said that. Say, don't leave me, but say it exactly like you just said that.
Don't leave me.
Ah, great depth, right? And then just for the variety. Are you frozen or am I? Say, that sounds exciting.
That sounds exciting.
Good. Now say, don't leave me from there.
Don't leave me.
Good. Okay, that one was a good experiment. That one doesn't work. But that's part of exploration, is we have to be unafraid, to try things that don't work. In fact, we have to kind of explore things that don't work on purpose. Okay, that's 405. Killing a flyer. But yes, great. If you have to be violent. So Dia put something in the chat window, that if you're looking through your life, like when are you woken up at 2 a.m. by a mosquito and you are full of like, yeah, right? You're running around your room like, oh God, I killed it, before you go back to bed. That like you have the feelings you need in your body. Hopefully you don't have them towards people a lot, if there are these like really intense and scary ones, but you probably have every feeling and every experience that you need to tell all of the stories that you want to tell. It's just a matter of being creative about finding your in. You don't have to violently hate someone to tell a story about somebody who violently hates the person they're talking to. You just need to know what that experience is like for you of violently hating, whatever it is, even if it was brief, and then find a creative way with your physicality, with your body, with your experience, with your life, with the words that you say, with your imagination, to bring some of that into your body, and then just trust it'll work. Okay, bye, Reese. I've kept you a little bit longer than usual today, but this is something that I care about, and it's complex. So anybody else who needs to leave, bye. You can all unmute yourselves now.
Bye.
Bye.
See you here. Bye.
I'm
Great,
going to be here
great,
until quarter two. So
great class.
thank you.
Linda.
And has anybody got a question about? Yeah, Deborah, please.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about something we spoke about earlier, or actually yesterday it was, when I went through the notes again. It's regarding putting our stuff on Vimco or Dropbox before. What does Vimco and Dropbox do for? Can we get things organized from stuff?
I understand your question, Deborah, and your audio is terrible, so I'm going to cut you off there. Yeah, your audio is really bad. It's super choppy. Vimeo, Vimeo.com it's like YouTube. Only you can use larger files and you can password protect things. And Dropbox is a service that you can use to send files, to people. You basically sort of upload them onto Dropbox, and then you can send people a link. So both of those are ways to send a link to something privately. Where you can also do something like WeTransfer. Right, so it's just part of getting used to the technology. These are ways to send files to other people. They're not specifically about acting. Okay. Olivia, you had a question. No? Anybody else? Okay, substitution, personalization, any of this. Caden, I'm sorry you didn't get to do the blood truck scene, yesterday. Come back on next Monday. I'll find another fun little one for you. I promise.
Okay.
Oh shoot, there was some oh yes, okay. So I didn't get a chance to talk about this because there's so much in this topic of personalizing, or finding feeling, that I didn't get to the finer points of tips and tricks. But let's say that I'm doing a scene with George, and we'll give George this line from the scene, look, I have to. And so we've decided, so I say please don't leave, please don't leave. And and what it says in the script is, George wiping tears, I have to. So if and then my next line is don't cry. So you can't get away with completely avoiding it. So here's what most actors will do is they will wipe pretend tears. It looks super fake, especially because we're so close to you, we can see that your eyes aren't leaking. So we'll get George to do that first so that you can all see how terrible it looks. So George, I'll give you the cue line, or the cue line, so the line right for yours. I want you to say your line, and somewhere in there, sniffle and wipe pretend tears from your eyes. So that we can just demo the here's what not to do. So stand by and action. Don't leave. Please don't leave me.
Look, I have to.
Right, and he did his best to try and make it simple. I get a lot of full wiping of pretend tears, because we can see that you are not leaking. Not super effective. Now, typically it's going to be more emotionally effective for an audience to watch you try not to cry than it will be for you to leak all over us. I think actors get really excited when they can leak on cue. They're like, yes, I've done the thing. It's the backflip of acting. I'm the boss. Yeah. And then they just want to cry all the time, whether it's relevant to the scene or useful for the story, or the character or not. So if you have something like this where you have to cry, then one of the things you can do is just hide your face from us, so that it makes sense. The other characters say, don't cry. You don't have to be crying. The other character has to think you are in order for it to make sense. So I'm going to say, I'm going to give you the cue line. I want you to keep your voice really quiet and simple and say, I have to, and then exactly. And then I want you to just do one of these and hide from me. And I would say, and keep breathing. Breath is going to carry through a sense of how you're feeling. And then everybody will be able to see that. Then you justify the other character's line, don't cry, or why are you crying, without needing to leak in order to justify it. So stand by and don't leave. Please don't leave.
I have to.
Great. Yeah, and then from there I can say don't cry. Now the one more time, and I would say, and don't cover your face while you say the line.
Yeah.
And don't put any pressure on yourself to force the feeling, right? Let it be super simple. And especially if you're worried about forcing the feeling, just take the volume down even quieter. That's something people do when they're sad all the time. It lets the audience lean in and go, wait, what is he feeling? I'm curious about it. But the last thing you want is for us to be listening to you going wait, that's not really what he's feeling.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying? So just take the volume down, and then after the line, hide your face, just because you don't want to cover your face while saying lines. Typically.
Yeah.
Step by, and don't leave. Please don't leave me.
I have to.
Good. And even if it feels silly, I'm going to say it one more time and really whisper the line so that everybody can hear. But don't force it, right? So just say the words, but just in a whisper. So stay with me, stand by, and don't leave. But please don't leave.
I have to.
Great. And you see how effective that can be, even when he's not feeling anything other than like, oh my God, stop putting me on the spot, Michael Bean. I kind of hate you right now.
I'm feeling emotional now.
Yeah. And sometimes what will happen, is you will surprise yourself that if you put yourself physically or vocally into the right place, that you'll surprise yourself with the amount of feeling that comes out of you. So if you get a scene where it says don't cry, the important thing is the other character can justifiably think you are crying. It's not important that you leak. And I think there are times where it's totally appropriate to right, to just hide your face from the camera for a second, not while you're doing your lines, but in order to tell the story. Sometimes a very long pause can do the trick there for you as well, right? Like that instead of crying, Danny, George says, don't leave. And
Oh, sorry.
no, that was me pausing. There's a long pause before I say my line, and that you can read all of this conflicted feeling into. As long as I'm really present with George, I'm really connected, in the scene, then those pauses can, if they're full, become enormous information about what your character is feeling. And I think beginning actors will often try and put those pauses before or after every single line. And that's when your acting teacher, the casting director, is like, okay, yeah, now take the air out, pick up the pace. So if you're going to do that, you just have to do it very selectively. You have to do it because it supports the story. That's my opinion. Okay, there's tips and tricks and personalization, and like a whole bunch of complex stuff. Try me attempting to sum it up in half an hour. Any final questions before I let you go? Okay, thanks for making time to join us today. Look forward to the next one. Still figuring out who our producer guest is going to be on Friday, but I got a couple of people to reach out to. I'm excited about it. See you soon.
Thank you.
Bye, people.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks again.
Bye.